So, Game of Thrones Season 6, Episode 5, The Door aired last night, and we've reached the halfway point already of Game of Thrones. We're going to recap that, and this is your spoiler warning. Spoilers! I'm going to be talking about it now. We open with Sansa at the wall sewing. Someone brings her a letter which is marked with Littlefinger's seal. Sansa reads the letter and asks how far Molestown is. Littlefinger is waiting for her in one of the Molestown ruins. He greets her and Brienne, but neither look happy to see him. Littlefinger tries to gain Sansa's favour by saying how relieved he is she escaped. He tells her that he's ridden north with the Knights of the Vale to come to her aid. Sansa begins chewing him out about Ramsay, and it's glorious. Brienne even joins in. He admits he didn't know about Ramsay and apologises. Sansa threatens to cut his head off, but sadly it doesn't happen. Littlefinger tells Sansa that Blackfish Tully has an army gathered at Riverrun and he's retaken it from the Freys. Sansa makes it clear she does not want to see him again. We then go to Arya and the obnoxious girl training. Jaqen turns up and takes Arya to the room of lots of faces and tells her some of the history of faceless men. He gives Arya a poison and tells her she is to go after an actress. This is her second chance. She will not be given a third. We go to the play, which is a reenacting of the death of Robert Baratheon, which Arya watches laughing when the actor playing Joffrey gets smacked in the face. But soon a parody of Ned and Sansa appear and Arya doesn't enjoy it as much. Backstage, the boy who played Joffrey is inspecting his dingle-dangle, and Arya gets taken for a prop girl, which allows her to blend in. And Richard E. Bloody Grant is part of the show, apparently. He's backstage fixing his wig, telling someone that there are no small parts. I wonder if that's the last we'll see of him. Arya spots her target and she goes back to Jaqen to tell him her plan. She wants to know who wants the actress dead, but it doesn't matter as the price has been paid and she is to die. It makes no difference to the many-faced god. We travel beyond the wall to Ming and Bran. They're walking again and come across a godswood tree surrounded by stones. The children of the forest run amongst them and they approach and see them having a meeting. The children have a man tied to a tree and a blade of dragon glass. They stab him with it, which transforms him into a White Walker. Bran wakes up and sees the children of the forest and confronts them. She tells them that they were at war, the godswoods were being cut down and they needed to defend themselves from men. Heading over to the Iron Islands, they gather for the King's Moot. Yara steps forward and makes a claim and a very good speech about the fact that the Iron Islands have a history of being a bit crap and having some poor follow-through. A rude man interrupts her though, pointing out that Theon is there, but Theon goes and stands by his sister, making quite a good speech himself that Yara is clearly appreciative of. Then Euron appears, the guy what did murder Baelon, his brother. He mocks Theon for being a eunuch. Yara accuses him of killing Baelon, and indeed he confesses it. Euron says that he's going to hitch his wagon to Dany's dragon train and aid the Targaryens in retaking the Iron Throne, which apparently convinces the crowd. Yara and Theon run to their ships while Euron is being baptised in the ocean, almost drowning in the process. When Euron comes round, he decides to murder his niece and nephew, but the two younger Greyjoys have already sailed away with all the ships of the Iron Islands. We now see Dany overlooking her new army of Dothraki with Jorah and Daario. Dany is still not happy with Jorah, but he shows her his greyscale and she is very upset that her loyal man is dying. Jorah confesses his love to Dany and then bids her farewell, but she tells him not to go without her permission. She tells him he must find the cure for greyscale, heal himself and return to her so that he can be by her side when she retakes the Iron Throne. Dany sets off with the Horde to return to Meereen, speaking of which, the Queen's Small Council is having a meeting. There's been peace for 2 weeks in the city, but Tyrion wants to run a good PR campaign for Dany. Cue the new Red Woman who we've been seeing in all the trailers. Kinvara, the new Red Priestess, is convinced that Dany is the prince who was promised and has been sent by the Lord of Light. She agrees to bring her priests to the city to spread the good word of Dany to the people. Varys, of course, can't help but show his scepticism since Stannis was promised all this before. Kinvara shows knowledge of what happened to Varys with the sorcerer who cut him, and even that a voice called out to him. Varys looks physically disturbed. The priestess departs and we go back to Bran inside the big tree. He's a bit bored and everyone's asleep. He throws a stone but Ming doesn't wake up. So he crawls to the roots of the weirwood and walks himself into the place they were before. The godswood with the tree. This time we see it above and it looks very much like the patterns that the White Walkers are making with body parts. Oh, and it's completely covered in snow. The tree is split in two and completely dead. Bran looks around and sees a huge army of the dead surrounding him. He walks through them and in between them as they stand still, not moving. When he makes his way to the edge, the Moss White Walkers are all chilling on their dead horses at the back. The Night's King looks at Bran. The army all turn round to face Bran, and the Night's King then grabs Bran's arm and he wakes up screaming. Bran has a grip mark on his arm, and Ming tells him that the Night's King will come for him and he can break into the tree now. Ming tells him that he isn't ready to be the new three-eyed raven, but he has to be. Bran wargs again, and we cut to Jon Snow overlooking a map. He knows that they need more men if they're to retake the north. Sansa tries to argue the loyalty of Northmen, but Davos counsels that they should start small and build their army. Sansa plays the Tully card, but doesn't tell Jon and Davos where the information came from. Sansa wants Brienne to go to seek the Tullys because she's the only one she trusts. Brienne doesn't want to leave Sansa though, and doesn't trust Davos or Melisandre, but Sansa does trust Jon. Jon and Sansa gather together. She gives Jon a gift of a new fur that she made herself that made to look like their father used to wear. Tormund Giantsbane gazes longingly at Brienne. Jon tells Ed not to knock down the castle while he's gone, and Ed says he'll do his best, and the Starks and their crew set off. Ed is somehow promoted to Lord Commander, and it's quite funny. Back in the tree, Ming and Bran are warged, and Mira talks to Hodor about going home, but notices their breaths have gone cold. Mira runs outside, and the children of the forest look on with her. The Night's King and his entire army are there waiting. The children tell her to get Bran and run, and Mira tries to wake Bran up. Bran is in a flashback, however, the same one he was at the start of the season, with the baby Ned and the baby Benjen. Mira grabs onto Bran's legs, tries to hoist him into the car, asking for Hodor's help, but Hodor just rocks and says Hodor a lot, while the children throw rocks at the dead army, which explode on contact. They make a barrier of fire, which the Skellies and the dead men can't cross, but the bosses can and do. The dead army, however, can walk around it, and they start climbing up the Godswood. Mira finally gets Bran on the cart, and in the flashback, Ned's father says goodbye to his son, and tells him if he has to fight, he should win. He's sending him off to the Vale. In the present, a skeleton breaks through the roots and Mira cuts it in half. More come to attack, and the children of the forest come to Mira's aid, fighting them off. Mira tries to wake Bran. They need Hodor. She tells him they need him to walk it Hodor now. Bran can hear this in the flashback. Ming tells him to listen to his friend, and Bran walks into Hodor to pick himself up and carry himself off. A few of the children are killed as the skeletons, but Mira throws a spear at them and does explode one of the boss ones. Summer stays behind and gets killed, leaving us now with only Ghost and Nymeria, who is technically alive as far as we know, but probably dead, so the entire wolf side quest is pointless. The Night's King enters the chamber where Ming is still trapped inside the tree roots and still warged. He bids farewell to Bran, and the Night's King kills him. The others run, try and escape. The last child of the forest stays behind, sacrificing herself and killing a lot of the pursuing dead army in the process, but not all. Hodor breaks open the door and drags Bran out. Mira shouts to him to hold the door. She picks up Bran on the cart and starts dragging him through the snow. Back in the past, Bran turns to look at Hodor, the young talking Hodor who looks like he can see Bran. And then his eyes were all white as if Bran is walking into him. And young Hodor collapses and starts having a fit, shouting, "Hold the door, hold the door, hold the door." In the present, Mira disappears into the snow, and Hodor keeps holding the door as the dead army start breaking through, stabbing him, scratching him, and killing him. Past Hodor chants change from hold the door to hold the door, hold the door, hold the door, Hodor, Hodor, Hodor. Ladies and gentlemen, we need a moment's silence for the gentle giant, Hodor. Last year of the Great 4 episode leak, I discussed with people the possibility that HBO could have leaked Game of Thrones itself due to the fact that the first 4 episodes were a little slow going and it only got going towards the end of episode 4. This season, the first 4 episodes were a little slow going and it only really got together during the ending of episode 4. Now I can't help but feel again it's gotten really good at episode 5, and there's not been some good moments, it's just we've had to dawdle through a lot of storylines that seem to be going nowhere to get where we are. Now we've reached the halfway point, I have some feelings on the season so far. Firstly is my death predictions. I predict that Sweet Robin Erin, Ramsay Bolton, High Sparrow, Rickon Stark and perhaps Littlefinger will all bite it this season. Secondly, deaths. There have been a few deaths. Some carried more weight than others. For example, Roose Bolton's death was shocking and unexpected. Orsha, though a far more beloved character, was completely resigned by everyone, as she'd been gone for 3 seasons, and we all know Ramsay very well at this point, and most people said as soon as she saw the knife they knew she was going to die. Shaggy's dog's death annoyed the hell out of a lot of fans, and I suspect Summers will also see. It seemed at the beginning of the show that Giles was such an important symbol of the family, and now discounting Nymeria only Ghost survives. King's Landing was missed this week, but not the High Sparrow. Highlights of this week's episode was everything involving Hodor and his sacrifice, though not Summers, as it doesn't seem so much as a sacrifice as the writers killing off another wolf. In fact, I can't really think of a low point for this episode, though it does seem that we're probably due to be bored to death by the High Sparrow and or the Sand Snakes at some point. Watch this space. At the end of this season, we're going to have a big group discussion on Airtime of the Geek. I'm going to have some special friends come in. We're going to discuss it as a whole, and that'll take place in about 6 weeks. You can send comment, query, suggestions to me if you follow me on Twitter. It's at Airtime of the Geek. Instagram is at Airtime of the Geek. You can email me. It's paulab@ignitionradio.co.uk. You can take a look at geeky art I upload to DeviantArt. It's Airtime Geek. You can like the Facebook page, facebook.com/Airtime of the Geek. You can call the studio. It's 01642 645 827. That's everything for this week's episode of Airtime of the Geek. I'll be back next week, same time as usual.